Right? Hey, everybody. We are live, LinkedIn Live. I love these lives. We're just shortly after the holidays or after Christmas, and I guess we're still in some of the time for Hanukkah. And I'm being joined now with by Steve Browne, and he actually is a leader with heart. So he's been on the Leadership with Heart podcast, and I've been trying to get him on this live show because I just love all of the stuff he puts out in the universe in HR, but just really more about humanity and people and connection and things like that. And he has such a positive force out. And I see him so much on Twitter, and I'm like, I want to get you on LinkedIn and get you more on LinkedIn out here. So welcome, Steve.
Hi, Heather. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing great. One thing I didn't mention is that Steve he has a book that came out. Was that last year or the year before?
A couple years ago
Called HR on Purpose. And right now he is the VP of HR at LaRosa's. And he is also writing his second book, which he's telling me now in 2020 in June will come out again. So we have some really busy leaders with heart out there, just doing some great work. And I'm so just proud to know you and know that you're doing all this great work in HR and the HR community. You're very involved, I think, on the board with SHRM, right, National. So cool. I took on a recent board position with Mile High SHRM here in Denver.
Nice.
So I'm doing the local thing, and that's kind of fun, right here, my community doing it. So
I love the local chapters. Love the local chapters. I would love to see more HR people involved in chapters because it grows your network more genuinely than anything else. And you can get as involved as you choose.
Well, it's true. And the thing is, I'm not sure if you know this about me, but I'm not traditional HR. So I have organizational development in my background, but I really have I've reported to HR for all of 2 weeks inside of the role that I had. So never reported up through, I was always reporting to the executive leadership team. And so traditional HR, I don't have a hand in. So that's why I focus most of myself on leadership, and I help. HR is my client. So HR obviously comes and brings me in as a partner to help them with all the stuff I do in the employee engagement and leadership space. But I'm not. But I love HR people. You guys, I feel like you're my people. Well, because it's like, I know that you have this love for the people inside the walls, inside your organization. So
absolutely.
We have very similar focuses that way.
Yeah, I agree. I'm glad you're involved. It's funny. I'd say everybody's in HR because if you know people, you touch HR in some way. The people side is far more pressing and more relevant. The compliance stuff, yeah, we have to do it, but it's the human stuff which makes HR great.
It really does. And it's interesting because I think back, I have a law degree, so I practiced law for a little bit. And I don't know if you know that, but I do. I'm a lawyer, but I don't practice. And please don't blame. Don't hold that against me. Don't do it. Please don't. But I did that. And I think I look back now over the years of all the things I've done, and I think I probably should have been doing like leading HR or leading marketing or something like that, because it's like there are certain things that I do that it's all about the people and the relationships. And I'm like, but you can't have regrets. You got to continue to move forward. So now I get to do what I love. Now I've created kind of my own life. And so it makes it fun to be able to do that. So let's talk a little about you. What are your fun goals? I know you so you have this book that's already that's like up to here. You're busy. And that's, you said it's HR Rising, right?
HR Rising. Yeah.
And the main, premise behind that, what is that focus?
I want people to lead from where they are. Leadership is well written about. Well, there's content all the time, blogs, podcasts, books, but HR has never looked at itself from a leadership perspective unless it's in a senior role. And I think you can lead wherever you're at. So if you're a frontline HR person, you can lead mid-level, senior level. I want people to use their HR ability to bring the organization together, not just focus on the field of human resources. And I want to push organizations to change as well, to say, hey, if we're going to be people-centric, which is what I think people need to be in order to be relevant in 2020 and beyond, then HR has to be involved, not just from a support standpoint.
It looks like I was trying to see, you're going to see me look over a little bit here and there on my phone because I'm checking out the LinkedIn live stream to see who might be joining us. I see Olga Paler, and that's probably not how you pronounce your name, Olga, so you can just slap me later. But I'm happy to see you here in Laquita. Hello, good morning. And so Laquita's here in Colorado. This is a sweet story. I met her kind of it was through LinkedIn, but when I did my first when I had my first book and I did my first book signing at one of the Barnes and Nobles here in Colorado, she showed up. She was the only one out of like all my contacts from LinkedIn who had showed up, and I thought that was awesome. So she and I have been supporting one another since then. But that's awesome that she's on here. I'm trying to see if I can find this on the live stream. Sometimes it's easy to find, and sometimes not so much. Oh, here we go. Okay, good. That way, if people are out there commenting or whatever, then we can make sure we engage them. And so ask questions, obviously, when we're going about, guys. So I wanted to bring Steve on because he really does have the pulse on organizational focuses because you're still on the board. It's the board. You're in a board position at SHRM. Yes. So SHRM is one of the the largest organization for human resources, right? In the world. Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Like 400,000 members or something kind of crazy. So do you have a really good pulse on what's happening inside the organizations as it relates to people, as it relates to leadership, just trends that are happening in the workplace, as it relates to the people that are inside the walls in the organization? I always say organizations are just like corporate structures, but when we think about it, it's all about just a lot of people all getting together, trying to focus on coming towards a common mission. And so let's just chat a little about that. So what are you seeing, might be some of the key things that leaders inside and outside of HR really need to be focusing on for 2020, really, and beyond?
The first thing I want to see people focus on in 2020 especially is approach. Approach is very challenging these days because it's hard to have discussions. You can't bring up divergent ideas because people attack. And you can't have discussions, whether it be on social or in person in organizations. People are forcing people to take sides instead of trying to gather information about what's going on in regards to situations, in regards to movement of the organization, in regards to changing of positions or titles. People want, make it black and white and make it concrete, and it's got to be, take a side. Never worked, never has. We've really gotten away from just being very conversational with each other. And also, I think, not just HR, but leadership in general, they need to be able to step into the shoes of other people and see where they're coming from. Listen a lot more, not the active listening and all this silly stuff that we've been doing for generations, but just, don't come in with an agenda. Just come in to talk to me about how my day's going. And I know that sounds very simplified and it doesn't pertain to work per se, but my thing is, if we don't address the lives of people, the work will never get addressed the way it should. We have to make time for people's lives because we all bring life to work.
Oh, I love that, because of this idea of just focusing on the whole person and meeting them where they're at that moment. And it's interesting because there are people who I know maybe have what you're talking about is empathy to a large extent, and a lot of people who maybe don't have that naturally in them. And I kind of give some ideas or have some ideas on maybe how they can create that. But what would you think, for example, the HR folks who might be, super inundated with day-to-day tactical, practical things that they're doing, and you're saying like step into someone else's shoes? What are some of the practical ways you'd want them to go about doing that?
Do you remember when your kids were little? And if they went swimming, they wanted to show you how they jumped into the pool. And you're like, you're just jumping into the pool. What's the big deal? But they're like, mom, dad. What's really funny is people want our attention. More than anything, they want our attention. They want to be heard, they want to be listened to, and they want our attention. The challenge is we tend to take the first step and then we don't turn it around and reflect it to others. So, hey, Heather, you wanted my time. Yes, you have it. I'm all in. And I go, now, Heather, could you do that with Joe, who reports to you? And you're like, heck, no, I don't have time. I'm busy. You go, no. If this is important to you, don't just use it and be a taker, give on the other side. And when people model that, when you show them that, they just don't see it. I go out to our stores all the time. I love our people, and they all want my attention, which is fun. It fills my bucket more than anything. Then I challenge them every time. Hey, since I took time to listen to you, I want you to listen to someone else. So I think you need to push it forward. Instead of making it this big program, make it behavior that's, on the street, in the masses, and in small increments. Small increments matter a lot more than large shifts. People can't handle large shifts, and neither can organizations. But small increments, they can. And what you'll do is build more credibility because you're building relationships with people instead of just trying to handle tasks at hand. Those are going to happen anyway.
Exactly.
But it has to be more than just the work in front of us, or we'll have limited results.
Yes, I love that. There's so many here. Laquita says, seek first to be understood, to understand, and then be understood. And it is true, like not trying to get, always having people hear what's going on with you, getting your side in, but making sure that you're really truly listening. And like you said, it doesn't have to be a silly, the idea of like the active listening. I mean, active listening is important, but it has to be done with heart. It has to be done with sincerity. Everything can't be we can't be thinking of this in the robotic space, right? Like we're not robots trying to exercise on something that way. I've coached people before who don't have a high self-awareness. And even if they have the high self-awareness, their social intelligence isn't all that high. So sometimes with people like that, because they might be people who are already really structured, planned out in kind of how they work, that I have to show them and coach them in ways that speak to them and the way they understand it. So Absolutely. It might feel robotic. Like I may talk to them about proceduralizing certain things so they can track them and tick them off because that's how they understand and learn, right? So not everybody can come at things like maybe you and I might naturally do, where we want to go talk to people, relate to people. We really want to know about their families. We seriously are listening, right? And that's what we do. But not everybody does that. And I'm not always that great person either. That's the other thing. I'm not going to paint myself as just like perfect listener all the time, right? But I think the key is certain people are just naturally inclined to be that way. And some really have to work on it. And in HR, you often find people who are that way, particularly if you're getting like benefits, payroll, their focus on details sometimes takes them away from that ability to go real deep with themselves and then with other people, right? Because they're kind of topical.
I just had a conversation with my payroll manager yesterday, and she's amazing. Honestly, the best payroll person I've ever encountered. And she understands that what she does takes care of people in their lives. She just happens to do payroll. When I talk to my staff about benefits or workers' comp, all the legitimate, good, wonderful, tactical things of HR, is you're doing this to care for the people in their situation. Yes, you have to do the stuff behind it, but I think it's people first through processes equals results. It's not, process. And when I have real structured people, and I do, I used to work with engineers who were extremely structured.
Yes.
So I would come in and say, hey, can I have 5 minutes of your time? Break things down for them. Yes, I can give you 5 minutes. Great. And then you stick to 5 minutes. You cover one point. And more often than not, they'll go, hey, I have some more time. But I was like, no, we said 5 minutes. And then you come back, and the next time they go, hey, can I talk to you? So it's just teaching people slowly and having the patience to be there on their scale and not yours.
I love that. We really have to have and strive to get that more in the workplace. I think we have a lot of people. I was just on the call with someone earlier because I'm DISC certified. And so we were talking about, the communication and behavioral style. And this person knows that this person happens to be the dominant behavior. And so they know that about themselves. And they also know that they can kind of tend to plow over people, kind of move really quickly, and then look behind them and wonder, like, there's nobody around me because nobody really wants to be around me. So, right. I mean, there's people like that in the world. In fact, I used to kind of be that person 20 something years ago before I had 4 kids, and then my life completely changed and then I changed. But we just have to have more of that self-awareness in the workplace and the desire to continuously improve, right? This is not about perfection. It's just about us improving every day, little by little, right?
One thing I'd really love to see in 2020 from HR and just work in general is the realization that we work in a continuum. We always have. There aren't starts and stops. There are milestones. There are goals. There are results, but it never stops. What's really funny is people want to stop. They want to stop to breathe. So you got to build that in. So it's funny. They're giving us the cues to follow. The question is, will the organization respond? So if someone says slow down, then slow down. If someone says speed up, give them context as to why we need to speed up, and then do it. But do it as a flow of work instead of a start, stop, measure. It's really funny how we want everything linear in a continuum world. It can't work. They have to coincide instead of being separate.
Yes. Yeah, that's really powerful. I'm going to go to some of these comments because there's people that are like just, out there in the world. So we got Ariana Morel. See, it's all about self-control and surrounding awareness. And then she says, did I say that right? Or, you know what? I know exactly what you're talking about. You're basically just talking about your own emotional self-management and social intelligence, those around you and how you're impacting others. And that's what you're saying. And I totally get it. She says, if anyone gives you the same feedback, it's all on you. Make adjustments. So it's true. If you're getting that continuous, you're saying in the workplace, if you're getting that continuous feedback, you might want to take a clue, take a hint, figure out how we can get better, right? Because we don't always do that. And I liked your idea, Steve, because I was just talking to someone about this the other day after I've read like all of these employee engagement comments from this particular client. And she says, we really need to learn how to slow down. We as executive leaders need to take that time to come up with time to motivate our people, to inspire them, to help them, as you talk about, find out what their mission is instead of shoving things down their throat. Like you talked about earlier, the person understood that they were in payroll, but boy, they touched the lives of those people. And so when people have that mission, they can have a clearer mission, though, when they have that time to breathe. And if we don't create those pockets of breathe time where they can think strategically or take some deep breaths and reflect and be able to engage with people, we really are just shooting ourselves in the foot. We're never going to achieve the results we want for 2020 or beyond if we keep doing that, right?
Yeah. Do you watch This Is Us?
I don't, but I think my daughter said she's watched it before. I haven't.
One of the favorite things is the father who passes away. It's not don't worry, I haven't ruined the show. And one of his sons, Randall was very driven and very successful and stuff. And he would grab his face, and on the side of his face, he'd go, shh, breathe. And what's funny is we don't think we have time to breathe. We have more time than we know what to do with. If that wasn't true, you and I wouldn't be having this conversation. Now, it took several times to get there, for granted, but now we have time to do it. So people get caught up. What's funny is they say they don't have enough time, and what it means is they don't have enough time to do what they want to do. Yes. So since there are things in front of us that we do need to take care of, how do we get those things taken care of? How do we order those things? Handle them, and you'll find out all this time is still there, and you're able to breathe and go to a movie and go out to eat and talk to friends. It's not all as consuming as we make it. I think people want it to be consuming because that's how they define value and who they are and what they do through their work and position, instead of saying, what I do is contribute. What I do is perform. And I'm a part of a bigger thing. It's just not me. What I do matters. And I know from my company that I matter. I think the other big thing for 2020 is HR has to really drive the message to organizations that people matter. Not a talent message, not a performance metrics message, I'm sorry. But, you matter, Heather. I like having you here because you matter. To me, you matter to our organization. You matter to your department. And honestly, when you establish that and are consistent with it, you can move people ahead. You can encourage them. You can lift them up. You can coach them. So it's not all, let's beat you up negatively to get better behavior, which is still being done, which is astonishing to me.
Yes.
It's more, Heather, you matter, and this is why you matter. And boy, you hurt Steve's feelings when you did this. Let's talk about that. It's much more, people have to realize the soft skills that HR brings to the table aren't soft skills. They're business skills that happen to be soft.
Yeah. And, to be honest, I wouldn't even know. I hate the word soft skills because I can tell you soft makes me think easy, and I can guarantee you this is hard. It's hard. And it's hard because people aren't doing it consistently. Right. And so I agree with you. I think HR is the perfect place for this. I hate the bad rap that HR has, because in many places it's a bad rap. Some of it's deserved, not a lot of it is. And the idea of having that connection, I'm always trying to drive my clients, the people that I work with in HR, to really try to provide more value and speak the language of the executive leadership team if they're not already in there. And even if they are, still to make sure that they feed the lens of the executive leaders who aren't in HR, so that then the lens can be more people focused. So like helping them become more strategic in their thinking, and how do you align yourself with a leadership team, but still keep that unique focus on people first, and make the people understand that this is, someone said this to me the other day, and I don't know who it was because I'm doing all these podcasts, but she said, having a people first focus is not only doesn't only just feel good, but it helps us drive forward in our strategies. It helps us drive forward in our initiatives to be that kind of leader, that leader or that type of organization. So it just makes sense to do this. This is not just, squishy stuff. This is the stuff that actually drives forward. You have a 5-year plan, do what we're talking about. I guarantee you're going to get there faster.
Agreed. And what's really funny, and I've tried this out, when you ask people in the day, what do they talk about? They're not talking about stuff. They're talking about other people. So when organizations say, well, it doesn't matter, and we have to have strategies and goals and things and processes, you do. However, when you say that happens, you say, so Lori's in charge of that strategy. They go, oh, well, it doesn't matter because Lori's a person. They go, oh, no, you're being silly. No, see, you've got it backwards. Focus on the people you want to do the good work, and they will. Don't just focus on the good work. Focus on the people, enable them, equip them, let them do the good work, and watch what happens. When you do it backwards, you're just going to get stuck more often than not. And another thing I'm trying to work on, and I don't want to share too much because I want to write about it.
That book that's coming up in June of 2020.
Yeah,
yes.
is this. I think we've had this myth in work that the only reason I exist is to solve problems. So, the only reason you have a job, Heather, is everything's effed up. Everything. And thank goodness you're here today. Ta-da! And you're like, look at me, I'm solving problems. Instead of saying, I'm doing work. I'm moving the organization forward. It's, everything's wrong. If everything's wrong, no business would exist. It's just, it's unfathomable to me.
Exactly.
But we keep talking about, what's wrong today? Thank goodness you're here. It's a terrible way to be in an organization. I'd rather have you do your good work because of the talent that you bring to the organization, not because, gosh, if you weren't here, we would fail miserably. One of my favorite stories is when I first started here, when we go on vacation or if we're off on PTO, we're not supposed to call in. And it's so foreign because every organization I've been with before is like, you got to check in because you're so important. And my boss, who I adore, said this, hey, we were in business 50 years without you. So we're good. And you go, oh, well, all right.
Like, you're special, but not so much. Like, no, it's going to keep going without you.
And then he says, so is your family in the room? I said, yeah. He goes, huh, and you're talking to me. I go, oh, man. And sometimes we just don't see it. Everything can't be broken all the time. It's just draining. It sucks your soul away. There has to be good. There just has to be. I can't keep.
That's why you're on here. That's exactly why you're on here. That's why everybody connects with you so much on Twitter and everywhere, because it's true. I mean, having that lens of not everything's a failure. We're not trying to put out a fire every single second. But in a lot of ways, we're just humans. Like we're just trying to get through life. We're trying to make sure we can thrive. We're trying to achieve goals, but do it with people we love and in the workplace with people we love as well. So it's not that complicated sometimes. We do make things into huge mountains, don't we?
We do, and it's sad because then we measure it. And what's really challenging from an HR perspective is since we're focused and built on a problem-based approach in organizations. That's how we do performance management. That's how we do promotions. That's how we do other. So, we want our problem solvers. Well, wait a minute. Do you ever think I had a guy, honest story, who used to cause problems and then solve them? And they were like, man, that person's brilliant. I'm like, no. He tears everything down, and you don't see the tearing down stuff. That's got to stop. And
what happened with that guy? Because once you see that that's a pattern, he's creating havoc around him everywhere he goes. So what do you do with a person like that?
I went to it's hard conversation, and this takes a lot of guts, and it's chancy. I sat down with him and I said, Dave, I want to describe a person to you in the organization. And people love gossip. They do, right or wrong, they do. And he goes, yeah, tell me about it. And you go, well, this is what this person's doing. This behavior, this behavior, this behavior. If you saw that, what would you do? Gave a great answer, gave a great response. I said, well, that's really funny because that person's you. And he goes, you jerk. I go, fair enough. But the thing was, his self-awareness was never going to happen, ever. Terrible, terrible confrontational situation. He turned things around. He was a very talented person, very talented. He was just misguided in how he did things and how he treated others. So it was worth it to have the intervention with him to say, this is what I see. with the risk of he could say, that's it, kaboom, and off he goes.
Mhm.
Or, huh, and his remark to me was, no one's ever talked to me like this. No one's ever taken the time to talk to me about this concern. Do people really feel this way? I said, oh, heavens, yes. Including his boss and executives, they just wouldn't have the confrontation because he was a performer. And I think that's really challenging in organizations when
Mm.
it's talent-based, and it should be. We let people get away with horrid behavior if they perform.
Oh gosh, yes, and that I have to say that's probably, yeah, more often than not. And I mean, kudos to you to have the courage. See, that is why. So everybody who's joining, if you're just joining or if you've been on here, but I have Steve Browne on here. He's the VP of HR at LaRosa's. He has the one book called HR on Purpose. He has another book he's working on. He is on the board of directors for SHRM, and he's on episode 71 of the Leadership with Heart podcast. So yes, he is amazing. And so you should absolutely go listen to that episode if you haven't already. I'm so excited because I'm approaching the 100th episode soon. That's kind of a big milestone for a
That's
podcaster.
huge.
And just, I mean, all of you, I've gotten so much richness from speaking to you and to so many others who just bring a lens I don't necessarily live by. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. And it helps to expand my worldview. And it kind of gets down to what you're talking about with this gentleman, that you had to expand his view of himself. He was thinking he was all coming down hard on some person in the distance, and it was himself. Mm-hmm. And so I'm sure you taught him a lot about courage in that moment. You helped him increase his awareness. And you said if you did a turnaround, I mean, because you're right, not everybody would take that. Some people would be like, screw you. Mm-hmm. You don't know anything, and he took it to heart. So good for him too, right?
Yes. Yeah. And he did very well, stayed with the organization and actually moved into another role in another place and is doing very well. I've seen him on LinkedIn every once in a while, and I love seeing that he's grown. But what's funny is if you have people that are willing to step into your life caringly and genuinely, they can give you that lens. It's not the, hey, I see this in you and this is why you're all messed up. It's, hey, this is the behavior I'm seeing. Let's talk about it. And it has at different levels, the majority of my day, I'm in front of people and we're talking about what's going on. And right before I came here, I talked to 2 team members who had a genuine concern, and we have to address it. And we had never met each other, ever. And what they shared with me was very disheartening and really hurtful. And to meet people for the first time and have them feel safe enough to say, hey, I just need to talk to you, I wouldn't change that for the world. I wish organizations would allow HR to be the safe haven they should be. I've written about this before. I hate saying that. That's not who I am. But, if it's not safe to talk to you, they're going to go somewhere else. And if they go somewhere else, it could be to the wrong person. It could be result in action against the company or action against people. And you can avoid 99% of that just by taking the time to say, hey, no matter what you say, Heather, you can't freak me out. If you want to play truth or dare, you're going to lose because I can tell stories to you. Your language doesn't bother me. Your background doesn't bother me. There's no stipulation in us talking about each other. It's funny. We focus on very narrow niches of companies. Best place to work, what a great culture, and this kind of stuff. I'd rather get past that veil and dig in and go, how do people treat each other? And if you saw how people treated each other, then those monikers and those awards and those attributes are wonderful. But for us just to keep throwing companies' names out like, you should be like this and you should be like this, I want to talk to the people there or know the people there to say what behaviors are allowed, what behaviors are fostered, how do people come, is it an attractive place to be? Do I feel like a magnet to come in? The huge challenge we're going to have going forward by far is a lack of talent in the organization to do succession planning successfully, as well as talent that's available in general. There's just a labor shortage. The labor shortage they predicted in 2010 has happened, finally. The only reason it didn't happen in 2010 was the economy was so poor. Now that the economy is strong, labor shortage has always been there. Now it's happening. And there are no bodies to keep filling holes that aren't there. The whole, robots are going to take over us. Although I did see something on 60 Minutes where somebody gets food delivered by a robot. It was wild. That's not in
You're not on your radar. You're not
in,
going to try
in,
to do
in
that.
in Berkeley, I'm like, I could go to the restaurant. I don't need a little robot, but I'm old. Uh, you know, the
Uh,
I think that people need to look at talent differently as well. I think everybody's talented. I don't think
mm,
it's based on roles or levels or titles. Uh, One of the best talented people we have, too, one of the best talented people we have, are receptionists at our organization,
mhm.
and they fill that role so well, so well. And God, I mean, that's a gift to do that every day, to greet people every day, to answer the phone, and for organizations to say, "Well, that's not talent. Talent really is only at this level or this level or with a C in front of the name." It's a miss.
That is so true. I always, I wrote an article of some years back where I was talking about this tree that's in my front yard. And okay, let me just say, I am not a green thumb. So I'm just saying, I moved into this house and there's this tree and I'm like, oh, it's just a pretty tree. It's purple. I'm like, oh, that's nice. I didn't really know about it. Just a pretty tree. And I had these neighbors and the neighbors were moving out of the house. They were next to it, door to us. And the gentleman came over and he goes, oh yeah, I just love that tree. We got some great plums from your tree. They would fall to the ground and you never picked them up. So we'd pick them up. And I'm like, what? You're telling me that there were plums in my tree in my front yard and I never saw them? And it made me think of this idea of searching for talent, for seeing the talent that's surrounding us, that's right in front of us. And someone else sees the talent and they snatch it up right in front of us because we never appreciated what was right in front of us.
Right.
And so, I mean, I'm not going to lie to you, probably years after that. And ever since then, there's only been 1 year that plums have come up where I've had plum. But they were literally had plum. They had plum jam on me. I'm like, what is going on with you, Heather? Like we would just stay inside and never see the plums in the tree. So I want to tell people that in 2020, if you are someone who, even if you're not someone who has a title, you're not a supervisor, you're not a manager, but you're just someone in the workplace and there are talented coworkers, you have friends, you have team members who have a lot of goodness in them. Why aren't you the catalyst? Why can't you be the catalyst to bring that up to those who maybe have the power to put that person in the spotlight, to shine a light on that person's greatness? But we really want to be doing that because when we recognize and appreciate those talents that are there, people naturally they feel like their work is more meaningful. They feel more connected to you in the organization, and then they want to stay, right?
Yes, absolutely.
It's just powerful. Don't be like me. Don't be ignoring those plums in the tree.
We all need to make
I still want to kick myself there.
That's funny.
Let's see. Olga says, I think the term high potential is harmful. Do we truly believe that there are individuals with low potential? Oh, I know. I think you are the same way. We both agree. I can't stand that word. Someone came to me one day and asked, well, you do leadership training. Do you do like high potential training? I'm like, no, I don't do that. I train different people in different areas and I don't have a special, specialty in high potentials because I'm just with you and I'm with Olga. I think we all have greatness in us and we can find it for ourselves, but it's that leader who helps to shine a light on that.
Right. I think there's an issue that you could focus on better of capacity. Do you have a high capacity? Are you able to take on more in a role and perform, not just, take on more stuff or be over more things? But potential is hard to measure. And to say someone's potential is greater or less than someone else's, it happens in schools, it happens with children, it happens with things. We keep trying to put people in places and slots instead of saying, what do you bring to the table? And react to what people to bring to the table. Potential is endless and limitless. Now, for instance, I like to write songs and write different things all the time, and I play the piano, but I can't do a concert. So my potential, when it comes to potential for concerts, not happening. But can I play the piano? Yes. So do I have something to offer in an array area in different increments and gradients? Yes. Quit trying to label me. Quit trying to box me in. It's funny, we keep saying, be out of the box, except this one, get in this one. Because if this one works, God, that's better because then I can control you. One of the things that just blows me away is the lack of, or the myth of control. The only thing I control, only thing, is how I act towards others, my words and my actions, period. I don't control how you react to what I said. I don't react to your tone. I control so little. And yet entire organizations are built on, entire leadership programs are built on, entire training programs are built on. We must get things in line. We must get things, structured and shaped. The minute that happens, it goes the other way. When social media first came out, there was this huge movement by lawyers, and and other people to say, don't let people use social media, crack down, shut everything down. I understand, because we didn't understand what was going on. But what was funny is people had phones in their hands at the same time they read the policy that came out from HR and said, hey, HR just told me not to use social media. So whatever you think you're controlling, there's already a leak somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
We're chasing
It's so true.
We're chasing the wind. And when it comes to high potentials, it's the same thing. Quit labeling people. Just allow people to perform. If someone moves ahead in an area, then accentuate that. Let them take on more until they hit their capacity. Then you go, gosh, you're doing great. I love that you're performing at this level. Way to go.
Mm-hmm. Yes, please do show appreciation. I mean, I think in 2020 and every single year after that, until we all die from the earth, right? Like until it's all gone, appreciation will be the number one thing that we all want. We want, like you said, people want to be heard. They want to have your time. They want to know what they do is valuable. That will never go away. I will be on this show every week, all the time, on the podcast, and right. I will always say that it's never going away. That is because if you think about it, innately, just we're babies, we're little newborns, we're in the crib, and we start making these cooing sounds. And who shows up right next to the crib? Mom and dad, a smiling face, family is showing up near us, right? We get to the point where maybe we're cooing, they don't start coming, they don't come, we start whining, we start kicking, we are throwing things out of the crib, right? Because we want to be heard. We want to be recognized for the humans that we are. And so that will be something I would hope that everybody will continue for this next year and on, whether you are a manager of people or not. You have the ability to make people around you feel important. So it's key to do that. So what are some of the other things that you want to be looking at for this upcoming year? So we have, stepping in other people's shoes. The approach that we take in stepping into other people's shoes is critical. And so social and emotional intelligence. Focusing on this idea of talent. The talent's everywhere, so don't limit our thinking about what talent is, and helping to maximize the potential of that talent based upon where they are and the gifts they bring. Making sure that they have safe spaces to talk, and to make sure that they're, they know that there's not going to be a reproach based upon the conversations that you're having, and so that they'll be more open to having the conversation. What are some of the other things that you want to make sure that we don't miss?
I think for HR to succeed, and this is something that's like in my core, we need to connect more and get to know our peers and share their good work. There are tons of people who produce content, all kinds of great content, and 99% of the people I see, they go, look at me, look at me, look at me, look at me, listen to me, listen to me, listen to me. And I love the people who say, like you and I are talking, and somebody go, yeah, but what they really said was my viewpoint. You go, whoa, wait. I'm cool. Let me hear your viewpoint. Disagree with my viewpoint. I'm all in. But professionally, HR people continue to be isolated. They continue to try to do things on their own. They're overwhelmed. They're burned out. They're constantly frustrated with the pressures of work and the challenges of people. And so what they do is just try harder. You can get so much help by connecting with each other. By me knowing you, my life is better. By me knowing others, my life is better, because I don't have to do everything. I can ask my friends and the connections I have, this is what I'm dealing with. Has anybody ever done this before? And everybody has. So for HR people to continue to think that HR has an isolate, it's funny. I love that, put the H back in HR, do the human thing, and like connect with other HR people. Oh no, God, no, I can't do that. You're like, wait a minute. No. So be with humans, but not other peers. That's a waste of time. It blows my mind. And I don't care if you're introverted, extroverted, I don't care. We are wired to be connected as humans, especially in our field. And for people to continue to keep saying, I'll connect if, this happens, this happens, this happens, this happens. I ache for those people. Ache. I don't get it. Now I'm a capacity person. Always have been. So I am connected to thousands of people, which sounds arrogant, and I don't mean it that way. I just am. The thing is, I know them all.
Mm.
I
Wow.
went through a whole Twitter thing today. You saw it, Follow Friday.
Hmm.
The thing that's funny is I type in every name because I know you. I don't
Mm.
auto tweet. I don't schedule it. I
Yes.
sit down and I go, hi, I'm going to write about Heather. You should know Heather because I know Heather and I enjoy her and I learn from her. And I know that sounds altruistic and utopian, and I don't care.
Oh well, who cares? You and I are gonna be living in this world. Just we're staying that way because we gotta. I think we have to keep. We have to keep being that kind of. It's might sound Pollyanna. It is what it is, and I like that. I like being a little naive. I like being all these things you're talking about. I don't mind it, and I'll always be that person because I think there is a better way. So Nirvana Dutt's on here, or at least I think he was. I'm not sure if he still is, and so was Kevin Randolph. I'm not sure if you're still. Thanks for joining from San Antonio, Texas. So if you're out there and you have questions you want to add to the conversation, please do. Because listen, we're out here. Yes, we have lot to add, but as we just talked about, we all have talent. So there's always something that can be added. I know Olga, you've been interacting, and boy, we had a whole stream of stuff from Ariana, but she had to jump off. So we will be able to look back at some of those comments that she gave us. But if there are any questions or anything you want to add, if there's something that you're specifically doing for 2020, so let's wrap with that. I am curious to know. So 2020, I know there's a book happening.
Yes. Yeah, there is.
And so that's one big thing.
Yeah.
And what else is happening? Is there any? I mean, that's already pretty big. I mean, most people haven't even had their first book. You're going in your second book.
Organizationally, we have a lot of good opportunities in front of us. We're a 65-year-old company, and we want to continue to be the company that has a great guest experience all the time, every time you interact with us. Well, that takes a lot of effort, and it takes a lot of great people who doing great things all the same way, in the same direction, not the same method, but the same direction. So we're looking forward to the whole year. I'm very fortunate. I'm in a position where all of the departments are intertwined, not just, hey, HR's at the table or whatever the crud that is.
Yes.
It's
good.
It's funny. We want people to succeed here. And we know that we're learning the more we take care of each other. Again, something we've been doing for 65 years, but now we're being much more upfront about it. The more we take care of each other, people will perform. It's so different than 90% of the organizations I hear about.
Yes.
I don't find it. And so it's hard to benchmark.
Yes. So
but
true.
But that's okay. And then we'll see what happens. I'm not a big goal person. I kind of go with the flow.
Yeah.
Because I'm a hippie. I just can't grow my hair long anymore. So I just want things to, for us to move and react and allow people to grow. I'm excited about what we have coming in for the future, but I don't know where the future is. I think we have ideas. We think we know where it's going, but I'd rather take it as it comes versus saying, here's our predictive analytics, which says this, this, and this, because when something goes awry, and it will, then you're hosed. I'd rather say, oh, hey, it went awry. What do we do? Do we address it? Do we not address it? Do we let it go? Hey, there was a bump. Happens. Or we go, oh, there's a bump. We better take care of that one. The other part is I want to have people remove more obstacles. From my department, we want to be the people that people see as a go-to resource so that we can help them do their job better. Not that we can do HR support. We want to take obstacles out of their way so that they can do their job better. And if we're doing that, then they're allowed to do the job that they're meant to do. So
I love that. One of the questions that Olga asked is, or she'd be interested in hearing what we should leave behind in 2020. Sounds like obstacles might be one of the things on your path, right? Leaving behind the obstacles, overcoming and leaping over those. What other thing you think would be something to leave behind in 2020?
I would love for people to, outside of you, other people, if somebody said, hey, I interacted with Steve, what was that like? And if they can give a positive, oh, I had a great time. He listened to me. He lifted me up. He coached me. If those types of things, not because you seek them out or force them to happen, but if other people naturally say that, then the leap behind you have potentials to grow like your tree. It's the old analogy of planting seeds. I don't solve things. I plant seeds. I might heal wounds. I might give a hug. I might give an encouraging word, but I'm there to plant seeds, to let somebody know. Again, I know this sounds very vague and I don't mean it that way. If I can show you that you matter, that you're worth my time, That's a seed that'll change everything for your day. If it changes your day, you'll change the day of the person next to you, the day of the person next to you. And it just grows and grows and grows and grows and grows. It never stops. We've just lost sight of it.
I love that idea because number one, it helps people water their own harvest. Basically, they create their own harvest and they water the seeds that then grow into what it is they need to be growing into. Instead of like you talked about, even on our episode 71 podcast, where you talked about basically helping people find their own mission instead of it kind of shoving things down their throat, helping them on their own journey and finding that. I think for me, a thing that I would like for us to leave behind are preconceived notions that it's someone else's fault.
Oh, that'd be wonderful.
I think that, right. I think it's, let's say to ourselves today, let's say, stop it. Like, stop it right now. Every single one of us, stop blaming someone else for what's happening in our life or what happened in the past or what's happening, whatever. Just don't do it. We have to take ownership in that. And you and I both talk about it. You literally will hear at the beginning of the podcast where I say, it's all about our actions, our inactions, or what we say or what we fail to say. We all control that. We have the power to control that. And we can't blame anyone else for whatever else is happening in the world, because in the end, it's how we responded, what we said, what we failed to say, how we treated somebody. So let's just say, let's leave behind in 2020 the blame game. We are not blaming anybody else.
That's wonderful.
Hopefully that's what you're looking for, Olga. Steve, this has been wonderful. I think you and I probably, all honesty, could just talk for hours and hours, and maybe more people would join by then. I don't know, but it's been great. I love hearing you out there, seeing your voice, your unique typed voice out there in the world. And now, of course, talking to you again, it's just wonderful connect. So you're a gift to us all. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. And thanks for the chance. I love talking to you. And plus we get to see each other, which is still very odd to me. It's like the Jetsons. And for those of you who are too young, look it up on YouTube. It's the best show ever.
Love the Jetsons.
So thanks, Heather. I appreciate it. Have a great new year.
Yes, you too. See you later, everybody. Have a good one. Please be safe.